Hello and welcome back to the Reapers. Today we're in the Ka-50 and we're looking at homing and ADF. So ADF, automatic direction finding. It's basically another method of navigation and it allows you to navigate to radio, I was going to say radio towers, but that's not really true. Any radio source, anything that's transmitting a continuous radio source, we can home into. And we can get their direction. So, the system that we've got in the Ka-50 is absolutely brilliant. We can home in, it's probably the best in DCS. We can home into just about everything. And so I'm going to show that to you now. So I've got a Ka-50 here, it's hot started and on the ground. And we've got a load of stuff to home into. First of all, we've got an NDB, a non-directional beacon. This is something you'll find dotted about the Caucasus a lot, but also we've got a few in Persian Gulf. They are basically a radio transmitter. They are transmitting in the kilohertz band, so we've got 265 kilohertz you can see here, and we've got a code name on it, DO. So what I'm going to do is write down that 265 code word DO, and we'll be using that later. So that's one thing we're going to be homing into. The next thing we're going to be homing into is a VOR station. Similar to an NDB station, it's transmitting radio signals again in all directions continuously. But the difference is, essentially for this tutorial, it's working on a different band. It's now in the megahertz. That happens to be in the VHF band with an AM modulation. So we're going to write that down. That's something else we're going to track onto. 112.3 megahertz, code name SHJ. Okay, that's the second thing we're going to home into. The next thing we're going to home into is this chap here. We're going to click on him. He is a M1 Abrams. He is currently transmitting a continuous call on 31 megahertz. So that's VHF in the FM modulation. FM here at 50 watts, and he's transmitting this wave file from my hard disk on loop. So we're going to try and talk to him as well. Actually, we can't actually talk to him, but I'm just showing that as an example of something we can't track. And finally, the fourth thing, an M1 Abrams transmitting on UHF ultra high frequency 255 megahertz in the FM modulation, and he's just shouting a wave file as well. So the good thing about this aircraft is that it can home in on all of these different bands. You've got a kilohertz band there, megahertz VHF, you've got UHF, whereas most aircraft can only home into either one or two of those types. So that's why I like this aircraft so much. Now, it's important to say at this point that we can only get the azimuth from these radio sources. We can't get the distances. It can be said, because this VOR station is set up so that we can get a distance from it, but I don't think in the Ka-50 we've got the necessary equipment to get a range. So everything is going to be azimuth today and no ranges. Now, the only other thing I've got to show is that some of these radios you can't tune in manually. You need to set presets. So let's go to our chopper. Let's go to our presets. In the R828, this is the VHF FM radio. We have to set these with presets. So we're going to talk to this tank here with this, which is on 31 megahertz. So we're going to make channel 3 31, or I've already done it earlier. So that's that. Next, the ARC22, which is the ADF for the NDB kilohertz stations. We're going to be homing into this guy over here, who's on 265 kilohertz. We're going to change channel 3 to 265. Again, I've already done it. Now notice it has an inner and an outer. The reason for that is that these beacons are really, their main purpose is for approaches, like ILS approaches in a way, just called beacon approaches or ADF approaches. So what you'd usually have on an airbase is one that is a mile out in front of the runway and one that is 2 miles out in front of the runway. The one here is the outer, the one here is the inner. What you do is you navigate to the outer first, then you navigate to the inner, and then you're on path to land. So you'd use that as like an ILS system if you were in bad weather visibility. Maybe I'll do a video of that at some point. And that's where you have inner, outer. Now, for this example, just to keep things simple and easy, we're just going to do this one station here. So all I'm going to do is make both the inner and the outer 265. Just out of interest, there is functionality to quickly switch between beacons, so quickly switch between the outer beacon and the inner beacon, and I'll show you those in the cockpit. Right, so we're good now. Let's save up and let's get flying. Okay, we're in the cockpit now. We've got lots of stuff we need to look at. We've got the R800 radio here. We're going to be looking at the HSI here. We're going to be looking at. We've got the beacon selector here. We're going to be looking at. We've got the ADF system. We're going to be looking at here, ADF NDB, and we've got the R828 radio here. So let's start at the R800. In fact, let's have a look outside. So the first thing we're going to home into is this chap here, the VOR on 112.30 megahertz VHF AM. We're going to use the that's in the range for this R800 radio. Now, I've already done a radios tutorial on the Ka-50, so I'm not going to go through it all again. I'm just going to quickly do it, basically. So first of all, we need to set the frequency, which was 112.30. We're going to be on AM there, so that's AM. That doesn't matter. Squelch we want on. ADF we don't want on yet. So what we're getting is some Morse code. Let me just pause there. We're getting some Morse code. And that Morse code is transmitting the code name of that beacon. This beacon here is SJH. So what I'm going to do is go into Google now and get to a Morse code translator and translate that into Morse code. Well, I've actually done it earlier. I can tell you it is what break break dash. And so what we're going to listen to is the radio now that I've tuned into to make sure that that is the station we've correctly tuned into. As you can hear, break break dash. So we can confirm that we're on SHJ. Next, we're going to do the homing, so we're going to click ADF up there, and now we're going to look at our HSI, and just pause that to make it quieter. And what we can see is our needle here, our HSI needle, our homing needle has turned. It's now pointing to us towards 240, and so it's homing in on that radio station. So it's not going to give us a range. You can see that the range is blank, but it's giving us the direction. So what we can do is fly over, and it should take us to it. Now let's get going. Now, I haven't flown this for a while, so I might be a bit ropey, but let's see how we get on. One thing to note about these radio compass needles is that they can be a bit twitchy, but this one seems good so far. Also note, we don't have to use our HSI. We can use our ABRES as well over here, but I just don't see any point because there's no range information. We might as well just use the HSI here. It's a lot easier. And that, I reckon, there on our nose is our beacon, our SHJ VOR beacon. So let's keep going. So the only way we'll know regards range is when we go over the top of it, and that will because this yellow needle will swing round all of a sudden. So that's what watch that happen. And you can see the needle has swung round to follow the VOR station. So that's how to home into a VHF AM signal. Now let's land and look at the next target. Whee. Right, the next guy that we're going to talk to is going to be our chap over here. He's transmitting on 255 FM on the UHF. So let's try and get him. So we're going on the R800 radio again. So we're going to turn ADF off. We're going to go... Whoops, wrong way. Bloody hell. Bloody hell. What did he do that for? 2550, and it was on FM. And you can hear that wave file. You can hear the guy shouting. That means we've got onto the station. We're now going to turn our ADF on, and we've got our needle again. So let's follow that, and it should take us to the tank. And we've followed our needle, and you can see it's led us to a tank. Again, once we go over the top of him, it will the needle will spin around again. And there we go, we're over the target. Right, so let's head down now, and let's go for our next target. Whee! Down we go. Okay, let's detune that. That's ADF off. Back to AM. Whoops. That's AM. Next, we're going to change over to our R828, our VHF FM radio there. And we're going to tune in. Now, as you'll remember from the radio tutorial, this is a preset radio only. We can't type in a manual frequency. In the mission editor, I've already set the frequency of channel 3 to 31 megahertz, which is what this chap is transmitting on VHF FM. So we're going to go to channel 3 and we're going to click tune. And we've homed into that tank, and you can hear the wave file to show that we've tuned into that okay. Now, at this point, I'm purposely showing you this to show you that we can't home into a VHF FM. There is no button here. There is nothing to allow us to do the homing, do the ADF. If anyone knows better than me, please let me know. But I'm pretty sure, unless there's something I'm really big and missing, we cannot home into VHF FM. Okay, so that's all I needed to show you there. Let me detune. Back to here. Okay, so that has shown you how to home into UHF, VHF AM, and that we can't use VHF FM. All we've got to show now is the NDB beacon in the kilohertz range, the 265 kilohertz DO. Now, it's this panel here. So, first of all is our ADF channel selector, and we've used ADF channel 3. That is tuned into 265 kilohertz. The next thing is our compass antenna needle. Compass if we want to get the direction finding, antenna if we want to listen to the radio signal. And again, it's basically the Morse code. If we look at this beacon here, we can see the code word is DO, and we can then again marry up the Morse code with the DO. I won't do it this time because it's just going to take needless amount of time. Got a test button. TLF, TLG, this doesn't work in DCS, so just ignore it. A volume knob here. Now, if you remember from the mission editor, we had an inner and an outer beacon, and I explained why. To be able to choose between the inner, outer and the beacon, or have it on auto, we've got this switch here. If we just keep it in auto as our basic function, then it will change once we head over the outer beacon and automatically switch to the inner beacon. Okay, and now we've put it on compass. Again, we get our compass needle. That is pointing to about 230, so we're going to take to the sky again and try and find this beacon. I'm starting to get some deviation in the needle here, the yellow needle. That tells me I'm getting closer. So, I reckon it's going to be one of these buildings here. That is this NDB beacon. And you can see the needle's turning more, turning more, turning more. It's going to be one of these buildings. And it's flipped. So that's told us that we've gone over that beacon. And that's how we navigate to an ADF NDB in the kilohertz range. So, to summarise, we've homed in to the VHF AM. We've homed into a UHF FM. We could not home into a VHF FM. And we have homed into an old school NDB in the kilohertz range. It's really intuitive, it doesn't bug, and it just works, so it's all good. I hope that helps, and we'll see you later.